Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Last week, I bought two Vanda Orchids and a black flowered Paphiopedilum online. They recently arrived, so let's take a look at them. The two Vanda which I purchased online and the blue flowered Vanda which I bought from a nearby orchid shop are not very healthy. These three Vanda orchids all have different problems. So in this video, I would like to share with you how to identify unhealthy orchids. When looking at orchids to buy, novices should try to avoid these sick orchids. I bought these orchids because I like Vanda orchids very much. There are very few shops which sell Vanda orchids here, so I snatch them up whenever I have the chance. I also don't think that these Vanda are too far gone. They are well within my ability to save. As I go through the process of dealing with unhealthy orchids, watch to see if you notice any problems which you had encountered in the past. If you like this video, please thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with more friends. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. In the future, we will have more free and helpful videos. We received these orchids after purchasing them online. Vanda are relatively large, so the sellers tend to use larger boxes to ship them. This foam is used inside to insulate the plants and preserve their heat. The seller packs each orchid individually inside a garbage bag, wrapped inside with shredded paper. The orchids are protected from mechanical damage and from the cold. The seller also included 3 heat packs. Because the weather is relatively cold here in winter, these bags can continuously release heat in order to ensure that the orchids do not freeze. The Paphiopedilum was already in bloom, and I was quite worried when I bought it. I was afraid that the flower might be crushed during the mailing process. I didn't expect its shape to be maintained so well when it was sent. The growth state of this Paphiopedilum is still very good, very healthy. I like the color of the flowers very much. The color is very dark. While it appears to be black, when you backlight it, you can see that it is actually an extremely dark purple. This is by far the darkest Paphiopedilum that I have ever seen. Let's take a look at the other two Vanda orchids. When I bought this Vanda, I was under the mistaken impression that it was in bloom, but it wasn't. It produces flowers which are pink in the upper parts and purple in the lower parts. Such coloring is rather peculiar. This Vanda is relatively large and has a well-developed root system. We have to cut off some of its roots as they have dried up. Some leaves have this purple tint. When exposed to very strong light, many orchid leaves will produce pigments called anthocyanins, which protect the tissue from sunburn. These pigments are purple. Just as people easily tan in the summer, so do plants. This is reversible, so long as we place this Vanda in a slightly darker spot. The leaves will slowly return to our normal green color. The yellow leaves have received a bit too much sunlight, with a few spots of sunburn. There are actually 2 smaller plants growing out of the base here, where the leaves of the mother plant have fallen off. This Vanda is not well planted. Many orchid sellers in northern locations often outgrowing their own orchids from scratch. It's not economical due to heating costs. Rather, they import the orchids and then resell them, or buy orchids from suppliers in warmer areas of the US. Therefore, one should always look for quality when making your purchases. In the past, I have bought orchids only to have them die on me very quickly. Though it is possible that in some instances this was my fault, it is also very possible that the orchids which I chose were diseased to begin with. Let's do some work on this Vanda. We cut off the excess dry roots first, which is conducive to the growth of new healthy roots. Dead roots will just sit there and rot. Then we remove some of the yellowed leaves. These are all the roots and leaves which were removed throughout this process. Finally, we attach this metal hanger to the plastic basket around the roots, so that we can hang the Vanda. We put it in an area with bright bifilter light, and after a few days, you can see that most of the purple color on the leaves has faded away. When it comes to orchids like this, the leaf color can be a good indicator of whether it is receiving sufficient light. In perfect light, the leaves will be light green with a very faint purple blush. This level of exposure can promote flowering in Vanda. This little bit of purple won't hurt the plant, but once the purple deepens and the leaves yellows, you are getting into dangerous territory. Also, keep in mind that it is much easier to burn them in early to mid-summer and late spring because the sun is more intense. Let's take a look at another Vanda. This flower is very special. The surrounding petals are dark gray with a bright blue center. This orchid was probably just divided, and the root system is very underdeveloped. When I received this Vanda, I was quite cross as the plant was severely dehydrated. Almost all of the leaves were desiccated, and I felt like I had received a dried flower. The flowers were also shriveled and severely dehydrated. The seller is new to growing Vanda. After receiving this orchid, we quickly soak it in water and sprayed water on the leaves of the whole plant to let it perk back up. It took a few days for this one to recover. We soak it in water for 1 to 2 hours every day, and usually sit it next to our humidifier in our sunroom where the humidity of the surrounding environment is above 60%. If the root system of a Vanda this size is not well developed, it cannot absorb sufficient water to supply the rest of the plant through normal watering. We need to frequently spray water in order to maintain a higher environmental humidity. In severe cases, soak it in water for a short period of time every day. After our treatment, most of the leaves of this Vanda have returned to normal. The leaves are significantly less wrinkled. We mount it in a wooden basket and put some moss around the roots to keep it moist. After a while, it will grow more roots. Finally, let's take a look at the Vanda with blue flowers. This orchid was purchased from a nearby orchid shop some time ago. It was already blooming when I bought it. I recognized this cultivar. It was one which I had always wanted to grow. After encountering it that day, I was very happy. The leaves of the upper plant were okay and relatively healthy. The only problem was that the bottom half was leafless. The wooden basket was also very old, and the wood at the bottom of the basket had degraded. Inside the basket, there was moss growing around the roots. It had really been neglected. A professional orchid shop cannot cover everything and take good care of every orchid like a home grower does with their personal collection. So when you buy orchids, you should look carefully and learn to distinguish between healthy and sick orchids. At the time, I thought that I could deal with it and help this Vanda to recover, so I bought this orchid. This type of leaf drop on the lower half of the stem could possibly be due to a fungal disease called fusarium wilt. Of course, there may be other reasons for the leaf drop. After we brought it home, we separate this Vanda from our other orchids. Once the flowers were almost done blooming, we went to work on it. We removed the dry roots and then cut into the lower stem to check for fusarium or other rots. In general, it should be pruned from the bottom up. Keep pruning until you see healthy branches, so you can keep as many roots as possible. Because the root system of this Vanda orchid was very developed, and the lower roots were either mostly dead or attached to the rotting basket, we started relatively high up. Before each incision, sterilize the shears with rubbing alcohol or a flame. After cutting, we found that this part of this branch was healthy, and the color of the wound was white. We were very relieved, as this meant that we could keep the healthy stem and roots above that cut. Then we made a cut just below the root. You can take a look. The wound is purple-black. It is obvious that this part is not healthy. It may be caused by fungal infection or bacterial rot. Comparing it with previous wounds, it is easy to judge between healthy and diseased tissue. After pruning, we only need to remove the excess unhealthy roots and take the orchid out of the original wooden basket. These are the unhealthy parts which we removed. We then take the healthy Vanda and mount it in a new wooden basket, and put some moss around the roots. In this episode of the video, we admired the rare color of our new Paphiopedilum. At the same time, I shared some of my experiences identifying whether or not orchids are healthy, and how to deal with unhealthy Vanda orchids. If you have any questions or thoughts, please leave a comment below. If you find this video to be helpful, please thumbs up and share it with more plant enthusiasts. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and see you next time.